All right, what's going on today, guys? Welcome to the Jason Wojo podcast. I'm happy to have Raleigh Williams with me. He is CEO and co-founder of DealMaven.io, former M&A lawyer who went on to build an entertainment business and recently exited for $26 million. I'm very excited to ask you questions about that because I'm thinking about exiting before I'm 30. And now he's building the world's only partial acquisition marketplace for digital businesses. Welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Good to be
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, of course, man. I read a lot about you. I even opted into the site.
Oh,
So I'm
nice.
honest, yeah, because there's like a newsletter there,
Uh-huh.
and I opted into that. So yeah, man, I think that what you did was like interesting to me because I haven't talked to anybody on my podcast who has exited for that much. I mean, I had a couple guys who have like exited their agencies for like 6 to 10, but
Sure.
like, yeah, you did 26 million, so that's pretty dope. My first question is, first of all, how old are you?
I'm 33.
Okay. And why did you decide to exit so early? Was it because of a market condition or just someone gave you a good offer and you couldn't resist?
Um, for me, so I started as a mergers and acquisitions lawyer in New York and Dallas, and I quit to do the entertainment business was a trampoline park, escape room, axe throwing business. So we had 7 locations. And in 2019, I had been doing it for almost 4 years. And I knew the only way to grow that business was to either franchise and really pivot the business model. We had done corporate stores that we were funding ourselves and building ourselves along the way. And I knew that we either need to pivot the business model to franchise operations or continue to build across the country and take on a bunch of new capital financing in order to get to the next phase. And I just knew within myself that 10 years down the road, I didn't want to still be in the business that I got into basically as an escape path from practicing law. And so for me, it was a soul searching moment to just be honest with myself and knowing what I learned from it, practicing law and seeing these businesses, buying and selling these businesses as an attorney. I knew that I wanted to start the exit process before I was mentally checked out. And that's where a lot of founders find themselves is they kind of run themselves to the end of the rope and they say, okay, I'm out. Like, how do I get out of this thing? And they don't have enough gas left in the tank to really make the adjustments that are needed in the business in order to have it be worth exiting. And so they get themselves into it's a bad math equation when they're like, why would I sell it for what it's worth today when I could just continue to run it and make more than what I would sell it for in a year from now? But they don't have the energy to change the business model and put the pieces in place to make it valuable from an enterprise value standpoint. And I had seen that enough times with distressed businesses that I just wanted to start that exit process right when I started to feel the hesitation, like when my COO would call me and be like, "Hey, we have this problem." I like when he would call me, I would start hesitating picking up his phone call, right? And that hadn't happened before.
Yeah.
Like I would see his phone number and be like, "Shit, like what the hell could have gone wrong?" Versus, 18 months before that, it's like, "Hey, bro, like what's the issue? Like you need me to drive down?" I was excited because it was something new and different. And so anyway, that was my process of exiting is because I just knew that I wanted to do something else.
Yeah. See, that's the thing with me is that like I like running my agency, but at the same time, I think I've just gotten to the point where there's like this level of boredom because
Sure.
making money is the same way that it is every single day. There's not that like and having newness is a double-edged sword. But at the same time, like I'd rather have new ventures to go into because it makes the whole game more exciting. Like running the
Sure.
agency is the same thing every single day. Clients, ads, funnels, landing pages. Okay, what's next? Okay,
Right.
maybe email. Okay, client pays, same contract, same system, same onboarding. Like it just gets boring. So that's why I started a coaching business just to kind of give myself some newness. And then I'm
Sure.
looking to buy softwares because I need to attach softwares to the business in order to make it more sellable because all of
Uh-huh.
our traffic right now is mostly paid.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, is it sellable? I guess, but it's not going to be as high as a multiplier if I don't have organic traffic coming every single day without running a single paid ad.
Right. Yeah, and
So,
that's why like one thing that one thing that we did back then in that entertainment business, and one thing that we do occasionally as a service for people, is we'll help them buy media, like owning the media, whether it's Facebook groups, Instagram channels, something that you can show to a buyer that clients get generated outside of a personal relationship with the owner, the owner that's hoping to get a payday and walk away with the cash. That's one way to boost enterprise value. SaaS is another way. Technically, like on paper, it always seems like a sexy enterprise value driving playbook, but you have to really integrate it. And depending on what numbers if you're talking about $5 million plus exits, you're dealing with a sophisticated person on the other end of that deal who knows what they're doing, and they can parse the data and really get an understanding of what's the churn metrics of the SaaS. Did you just bolt on a SaaS business onto a coaching thing so that way you could get a 10x multiplier as opposed to a 2x multiplier or a 0.5 multiplier in a coaching business? And so depending on the size of the business that you're looking to ultimately exit and who that buyer is and their level of sophistication, just based on the fact that they have that much cash to deploy into something, most entrepreneurs spend a lot of time building a customer avatar, who they are, what their demographic is, where they are in their lifetime, what they're looking to do on the next stage, and how to bridge a service that gets them there. And the highest level of exit planning and enterprise value building in a business, you have to do that exact same thing with the buyer of the business as opposed to the buyer of your product or service. Who is this buyer? What are they looking to do? What's the next phase? Like, why are they buying my business? Like, who is it that wants your agency particularly? Yeah. And one thing that I made this mistake even as a former lawyer doing these deals a bunch. I had a trampoline park business, an escape room business, an axe throwing business, and each of those businesses was profitable individually. And when I went out to the market to try to sell them all, and I did all these transactions myself, I didn't have a banker or broker, I just did all these deals myself. What I found was I had grown the business too wide, and it was too big of a business for any one buyer to want to participate in all of those business segments, right? And so the trampoline park buyer didn't want to be in the escape room business. He wants to be in the trampoline park business. And so that's why the $26 million exit, it actually took me 9 transactions to do it, because I had to sell off pieces of the real estate. And I had to break the business up into pieces over 9 different transactions in order to get the highest and best value for all of those business segments that I had done, because I had started it thinking that I was building a conglomerate, that I was going to be this big, entertainment empire. And then when it came time to sell, nobody had the $26 million that I wanted, and wanted to be in all of these operational businesses that I had built. And so that would just be something that, as you're thinking about building enterprise value, you may be adding SaaS and it may be accretive, you may be becoming more profitable, but also knocking more buyers out of the potential acquisition realm than what you think that you could be. And you don't really know that until either you make the mistake like I did, or you kind of start thinking about and having conversations with potential buyers or advisors that can help you through the process.
Now, right now with the recession coming, like BizOp is always one of the biggest niches that makes a lot of money during this time.
Yeah.
Either they want to get into a new business, but as far as acquisitions, like where did you see that back in 2008, 2009? What do you really depict for like the market coming up for people trying to do acquisitions? Like, what does that look like?
I think it's market by market, and a lot of it depends on what's the type of debt that you're bringing to a deal. So typically, if you're under like the $10 million range, and you're bringing the Small Business Administration debt, basically it's the cheapest debt that you can get out there for business acquisitions, because the federal government will backstop the loans that the banks issue for it. I think that if you have a business that is very high growth, but not very profitable because it's expensive to grow to the next level, e-com would be a great example of. A lot of times e-com businesses, as they're growing, they're more and more cash intensive until you get to the exit. I think that the markets will seek yield, basically cash coming out of the business much more frequently. I think that they're going to shy away into like high growth, cash intensive endeavors and move more and more into just things that are cash generative, which are usually services. You know, an agency would be an example of that. Informational products, like the last business that I bought was a couple of weeks ago, and it was an informational certification business that teaches, that is a biz op that teaches pharmacists how to become geneticists, as a new endeavor to leave their pharmacy job.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm currently acquiring businesses that are, and I bought that based off the fact that it's super cash generative and it's a defensible niche. And I know that the investors that I brought into that deal were investors that like that deal because there's a lot of cash flow involved in that business that can be distributed very easily. And you can grow that type of business without, you know, the growth of it isn't massively cash intensive, like something like e-com or even SaaS can be pretty cash intensive on the front end of it, depending on what your customer acquisition costs are. So I think the days of losing money in the name of the growth will make it all worth it, or the exit will make it all worth it, even though we've lost money along the way. All of those, you know, I'm seeing a ton of kind of venture distress deals where it's these guys that raise money in 2019, 2020, 2018 on a venture debt playbook that are in a lot of trouble because they don't have the cash runway to get to a level of stability where it can cash flow the way that it needs to in order to start returning money to investors. And so that's where I think every market's, you know, every little sub market's kind of different. And but I think high level, if you have something that's cash generative, I think you'll be in a better spot than growth stocks. And that's not how it's been in the past 3 years prior to today.
Mm-hmm.
It's, oh, you have cash, nobody wants cash. Cash is trash. Like, we want growth, not cash. And I think that narrative is flipping.
Yeah. So what kind of KPIs, like if you're looking at a business right now to buy, what are the most important KPIs that you look at first before even addressing the deal any like further? Like are there like these first indicators that you look at to know if it's even worth looking at?
Me personally, I typically won't look at anything if the expectation of the seller in today's market, if the expectation of the seller is more than 5x, 5 times trailing 12 months profit, you know, if they want more than 5, really, like, I like to be, I would say 4 generally, but 5, if it's 5, it needs to be a business that's been around for, you know, 5 to 7 years plus. I would say I'm very hesitant to look at anything that's been established in the past 2 years, unless it's a massive discount to what the trailing 12 months cash flows look like. So I just start with, does it make sense financially in terms of what the price expectations are relative to how the business has performed? That's kind of like my first blush thought, because I come from and then if that all checks out, then we start getting into the more of the marketing, you know, customer acquisition costs, fulfillment costs, what's our, you know, contribution margin on revenue, and some of the more marketing intensive and customer acquisition cost things. But I individually start with, what is the expectation relative to trailing 12 months profit? And if it's above really 4 times, then it's too expensive for me.
Is it because they haven't been through an economic swing yet? You're kind of looking for them to be able to be stable through an economic swing? Because two years is way too small.
Yeah, 2 years is a massively small sample size, right? And it's a really bad past 2 years because you have COVID, which had completely wonky economics in all segments. You know, it really juiced e-com. People are staying at home. And I also typically invest. I don't like to do full acquisitions where the seller is walking away, like the one that I just did. I bought 2/3 of the business and the owner stays in and continues to operate. So for me, it's, what are the financial metrics from a price expectation? And then, are they interested in continuing to stay on? Because I've been a seller of businesses myself, and I know that for me, the quality of the asset of a business whose owner is still interested in going and pushing on, just wants some cash off the table, that's a much better asset typically than something that the owner has been kind of checked out for 6 months and it's just like, okay, now let's get this thing ready to sell.
Well, also like the transition might be lazy because if they already checked out, them trying to transition the business over you might just be like a shit show.
Yeah.
It's going to
Yeah.
take more like
And,
lag time too.
and that's why I don't like, particularly on full exit deals, I know that there's going to be a lot of work that has to be done. And the real estate, it's called kind of like deferred maintenance, where they should have changed the roof 3 years ago, but they're 4 states away, so they haven't. And businesses have that too, kind of like deferred capital expenditures that they should have been continuing to invest in their people and their processes, and they've stopped doing that because they just wanted to suck cash out of the business because they were ready for the entrepreneurial payday. And I've just been involved in enough businesses where I come in expecting things to maintain the trend line, and the trend line dips and you got to reinvest and you got to kind of revive the thing. And so I like the deals where the entrepreneur stays in the boat with me and we build toward the 10x exit together, simultaneously, as opposed to them taking the payday and going off to Mexico.
Yeah. So what niches do you not advise people to do acquisition in? Especially with the market right now. Like,
I advise people not
like
to do acquisitions in niches that they don't understand. And so as long as you're within your circle of competence and you can look at a business, and if you can't look at a business within 5 minutes and know things that you could improve, of kind of like there's found money here, right? Then you're looking at a business that it's going to be really hard for you to wrap your head around and for you to really understand. And like this business that I bought 2/3 of, I brought in a partner. She sells through webinars. I brought in a partner who's an expert in webinars. He looked at the business and he said, bro, there's 5 things that if we can change these tomorrow, like we'll be able to improve it immediately. I knew that this business was around. I had known about this business for like 4 months, and I was trying to help her sell in an advisory role. We were gonna broker the deal and take a percentage of it. I just couldn't get involved because I didn't understand the business well enough. I'm not in the webinar world. I'm not an internet marketer. I didn't understand how to improve customer acquisition. So I just didn't touch it because there was too much there that I didn't understand. And then when I found the right partner that was also willing to have skin in the game, put money in and invest, and he said, I'm willing to stake my career on this move, then it's like, hell yeah, somebody who understands it, who's going to be doing the work, is willing to put skin in the game to make sure that it gets done. Even though it's not within my circle of competence, it's in the circle of competence of the acquisition team that I'm a part of. And so let's go for it. Let's do it. I could look at a trampoline park business and in 3 minutes tell you whether it's a good deal or not. You coming into the trampoline park world,
yeah, that would be a shit show.
say, wow, this makes $1 million a year. This could be the greatest thing since sliced bread, right?
Yeah.
And then you get into the details and you realize that they haven't changed their trampoline pads and their springs in 3 years, and that's going to cost you 60 grand that you're not budgeting for, and you don't know it until you experience it. And so putting your money into things that you don't have an operational idea on how you're going to improve it and take it to some level of growth or get your money out of the deal, there's too much risk in that. My whole thing is do something that if you're right, you get rich, and if you're wrong, you don't go broke. And when people get deal hungry, or when people come to me and they'll say, even on the media acquisition stuff that we do for people, buying even a $5,000 or $10,000 deal, where they're like, I want to do a deal in the next 6 weeks. And I'll always tell them, like, no, you want to do, like, a deal is like a marriage. It's better to be single than to be in a bad marriage.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
anyone would tell you that. Like,
Yeah.
don't get deal hungry. Don't put yourself on this timeline to get a deal done. Just like you wouldn't say, I'm going to be married in the next 3 months. Like, yeah, you could get it done probably, but like, at what cost,
Yeah. Yeah.
so that's
So yeah, so I want to throw a scenario at you because I want to pick
okay.
your brain. So we have 2 businesses. Okay. They're both the same niche. One business makes $1 million a year, and let's say their 3-month LTV is a lot higher than business B. But business B, and keep in mind, they're both the same price point, same everything.
1 million a year, 1 million a year in revenue or in profit?
Both make $1 million a year profit.
Profit. Okay.
Okay. And business A has a better 3-month LTV than business B, but business B has a better email list.
Better as quantified how?
As it makes more money than business A's email list. And it's a better nurtured email list that makes the same amount of money on a 3-month LTV, but it's using the email list to achieve that. So if you're exiting with which one would you rather buy?
And you're calling a 3-month LTV lifetime value, meaning the stickiness of a customer, or how are you quantifying?
Yeah, like how much that customer is worth for 3 months once they come in on like day 0.
Got it. Okay.
So one basically, yeah, I'm trying to make this like very, very simple. So 3 months, like let's say the LTV is $200 on business A. Business B, it's $100, but the email list is stronger and it makes it still $200 after 3 months.
Got it.
So are you buying the business that doesn't really have a strong email list but makes more money than business B on a 3-month LTV, or do you buy the one that has the email list?
I'm looking for something that's undervalued that I bring a unique perspective in. So if I was doing this deal with somebody that's an email expert, right, I would rather be in business A, knowing that I can bring unpriced value into the email list that they're not currently capturing. If somebody on my team knew how to do that, they look at the email list, right? If I'm looking at business B and they're like, man, these guys are whiz bang email guys and gals, and how are we going to continue at that clip that they did, because they're next level, right? I know that when I take it over, my email performance is going to depress relative to the price that I'm buying at. Okay. So I'm looking for things that I'm looking for. Where did the business take steroids? Either because the founding team was amazing at something. So if it's a founding team of just like amazing paid ads people, and they are making $1 million a year and it's all off of paid ads, I price that as they took steroids. I'm not going to have those steroids. And so there's going to be a contraction in the business when I take it over, right? So I'm buying it on the high, and then it's going to settle someplace lower than what.
Now you don't care about the lag time that it would take for an email list to be nurtured that well, though. You don't care that much. You know that it would eventually get to that point. Because sure. What if business A was never collecting emails or never did anything with nurtures? They were just really good at sales in person.
Yeah, that goes into the how are they generating that's why I like things that have had organic growth without the founders really knowing what they're doing, right? When I look at a founder that I'm potentially acquiring something from, and they have a heavy background in email marketing, digital marketing, all of these things, all of these like ninja ways to create value out of nothing, right? One way to look at it is, oh, that's great. It's all been set up for me and I don't have to do it myself. I'm looking for something that's underpriced though. I'm looking for, I would much rather have a founder that has a great product and it's growing and the founder doesn't know what to do with it. And she's, he or she have just kind of stumbled into this thing that they're like, this is crazy. I don't know. Versus a drop shipping store that shows that they made 300 grand, but I know it was built by somebody who knows Facebook ads and how to juice numbers properly, because that's their skill set. And that skill set is walking out the door with my money, and I'm left to try to replicate that without that skill set. You know what I mean? Yeah. So if something is massively overperforming, I depress it. So if you show me two investment memorandums of two businesses side by side, and you say, this business massively this business gets a 60% conversion rate, click-through rate on their email list, which is above industry standard, versus business A that is far below industry standard, and they're making the same amount. I'll take everyone that's below industry standard and assume that I can at least get it to industry standard. If they're performing above industry standard, then I start getting worried about, well, what if I can't keep up with that, right?
The other thing too that I would do is I would just have somebody subscribe to business A's email list.
Sure.
I mean, business B's email list, and just watch what they do for 30 days and just reverse engineer it for what we have to do.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. If you said, I've just bought business A and how do I improve it now? That would totally be like, a next right step. I'm looking for, I'm just looking for I'm trying to do things that are safe. So what's my margin of safety? And margin of safety is the price that I pay should be far lower than the value that I think that there is there. And so when I look at something when I look at the front end of a business, and the front end is like, these guys are jokes. Like, what are they doing? And then I look and they say, like, what the shit? They make 200 grand a month on this? Like, that's crazy. This, and like, they're already making money, versus something that's like pristine and like totally maxed out, you know, and awesome looking and has like PR and press kits. I'm looking at that as like, where's my alpha? Where's my, like, how am I supposed to, where's the meat left on the bone for me? You know, I'm looking for a house that I can kind of renovate, but it's still nice to live in today, not something that's like already like maxed out to the nines in the way that it was built, and like just having a nice house for me, because I'm looking to buy something at 2 and sell it for 6, not be in at the 6, you know?
Yeah. Dude, I love it. Yeah. I like your result because I was eager to see what you would say. Cause it's like, there's so many different factors that go into acquisition that I don't really know about. So it's good to get your opinion on it, because it's like, oh, do people value like SMS? Do they value email? Do they value better automations and systems? Do they value better leadership? Like all these things that you go into a business thinking what's worth more and what's not. And it's like, there's so many different niches, verticals, there's different customer journeys, there's different customer mapping. It's like, it's kind of hard to make that decision on what you want to buy or not. So seeing your perspective is really good.
It's hard to talk about it in the massive abstract like that. Me as a buyer, right? Like when I sell a house, I'll purposely leave one of the bathrooms unrenovated, right? Because I want the buyer to come in and say, oh, look, we can renovate this bathroom and like we get equity value based off of what we bought it for, right? You're looking for, that's a different buyer than someone who's just like, I just want to cut the check and I want to be done, and I don't ever want a contractor to swing a hammer in here ever, right? I think where entrepreneurs that are operating an ongoing business today, trying to build something towards exit value, I think one mistake that they'll typically make is they'll make all of the improvements that they think a buyer wants to see, and make it such that if the improvements aren't also driving profitability, right, then you have an issue. Every degree of separation that, like on your agency, Jason, every degree of separation that you can show that you have from your agency improves the value of it, even if profitability stays flat. Because when you're selling an agency, the risk in an agency or any service-based business is, what the hell happens to this thing when when the customers know that Jason's not associated with this thing anymore, right? Because the value of a business is basically just, what is the business making today, and what is the chance, how long is it going to take for me to get my money back, and how can I improve it based off of what it's doing today. And so when the owner makes moves that separates them from the operations, the revenue generation, and the growth strategy of the business, that inherently proves enterprise value, because it de-risks the business to a buyer. Like when I sold my trampoline parks, I made sure that every potential buyer that I talked to knew that the trampoline park was in Utah, and I was talking to them from Texas, where I was living at the time, right? Because it just shows, right? Listen, I've been running this thing remotely. I don't even check in. I don't even know who the general manager is there right now. If you ask them who I am, they won't know who I am. And showing separation from the owner to the business itself as an asset. Buyers don't want businesses, they want assets, and assets can afford the management of themselves, right? So they want to know that I can buy this thing, and I'm not going to have to insert myself into the operations of this thing day one, and I'm not buying myself a job.
Yeah, completely understand, man. I appreciate it. Well, wow, it's been 30 minutes already. So we'll just conclude with that. Dude, I love the conversation. I'm going to watch this one back because I'm like 25 now, and I'm like, I have 5 years. Like, that's always been my goal. I want to exit and just like do something else when I'm 30. Because I am pretty like bottlenecked in the business. Not like completely, but I'm still like the face of it. So it's just kind of concerning to me because I have to figure out how to completely turn the wheels on that. Because all of our ads have my face in it. And it's like, it's just kind of tough. That's all. And just all the people that work underneath me, we have like 55 people, and it's just a shit ton of headaches because all the technological crap that happens, all the headaches and all the things that I can't control with ad platforms, it is a hard business to sell. Agencies are very difficult. It's probably one of the hardest businesses to sell because, like, let's say we give buyer the business manager for all of our clients. And let's say during that transition, the business manager gets banned. Like, we can't control that. But if that ever happened, that could turn into a fucking storm on its own. So it's like these small things that could happen that could completely bring the business belly up.
Yeah, and sometimes in those type of businesses, sometimes it's better to, like, if I didn't find a buyer for my trampoline park businesses or my escape room businesses, my next move was going to be to just put in a CEO that makes, 150, 200, $250,000 a year, plus gets phantom equity, gets equity upside. And so if your agency is making $1 million today, you put in somebody that will replace you, you pay them 200 grand a year plus 15 or 20% of the profit that gets generated in addition to what it's already doing from the time that they take over. So I'm going to pay you 200 grand a year, which is 10% of your net profit, but it should take you completely out of the business. So you're now making 800 grand free cash flow as opposed to $1 million of very time intensive operating income. And you incentivize them to continue to grow the business, and you incentivize them with the economics that say, every dollar above $1 million of profit, you're going to get 20 cents of, because I want you to win. And I want you to be excited that your path to wealth is going to be in this vehicle of this agency. And that is an exit in and of itself. It's not a cash liquidation. It's not a liquidation event, unfortunately, but it's a massive time exit, right? And you can still get the cash flow. You find an operator that you really like, and your time has then been freed up to go and pursue the new things that you want to pursue.
Yeah. I love it. Well, I appreciate you hopping on. Where can they follow you right now?
I'm active on Twitter, Raleigh_M&A.
Okay.
You can go to dealmaven.io, subscribe to the newsletter if you're looking for media assets, mediaacquire.com, whatever.
All right. Awesome. Well, dude, I appreciate your time today. We'll, stay in touch if I have any other questions, or I want to put my thing up on Deal Maven. We'll see what's up.
Yeah, let's do it,
man.
Yeah,
I really appreciate you hopping on, and we will connect and talk soon, man. Appreciate it.
All right, man. Have a good one.
All right,
Peace.
have a good one. Peace.